Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. My name is Janish and I'm the Product Marketing Manager at AppViewX. To give you a little introduction about our company, AppViewX is revolutionizing the way NetOps and SecOps teams deliver services to enterprise IT. Our platform is a modular low-code software application that enables the automation and orchestration of network infrastructure using an intuitive, context-aware visual workflow. Our topic for today is top network automation challenges and how to avoid them in 2019. This topic will be presented by Muralidharan Panisamy, our CSO. Just a little housekeeping before we get started. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type them into the question box in your Zoom control panel. I'll bring them up at the end of the presentation during our Q&A. Now, without further ado, I'll turn the mic over to Murali. Hello, Murali.
Hi, everybody. Thanks, Janice. And good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are. So we have a lot of topics to cover. I'll try to keep it within the time as much as possible. So I'll probably accelerate or speed up depending on that. All right, so today we're going to talk about network automation. We're going to look at the lessons learned in 2018 and how we can plan for 2019. So I'll bring up some of our customer case studies and also what Gartner has spoken about. So we'll look at what are the current automation challenges, what customers are facing and what Gartner is talking about, and how we can address them, and how we can plan ahead for 2019, because automation is unavoidable and is hitting us like a tsunami, especially network automation. And we will share some of the automation success stories with you from what we have learned with our champions. And we will reserve some time for Q&A and we'll address the questions that you would have. So if you have any questions, you can ping on the Q&A panel anytime, and then we'll address it at the end. All right, so let's start with network automation challenges. So what is the business problem? So application has been consuming infrastructure and the pyramid has turned around, or the cone has turned around, where the infrastructure was providing service to the application. Now application is demanding, infrastructure, the services from the infrastructure, with the onset of cloud and application-focused infrastructure. Now, with the past decade or so, right, compute and storage has gone through a dramatic transformation with virtualization, and it has pretty much streamlined to self-serve themselves. So the application team can pretty much spin up a computer or storage within minutes, and they don't have to talk to anybody to consume that. And it is completely streamlined, completely integrated with all the DevOps movement and all that. But network has always been a black box, and network has always been an outlier in this aspect. So there is a huge push, or a huge, huge focus on networks to be a lot more agile and to adapt to the changing trends in industry. Right? So as per Gartner, 79%, close to, more than a majority, are manually driven. And this is true, when we go talk to customers and prospective customers and all that, this is where they start, right? Majority of the changes of the network are manual and are distributed or siloed, in other words. So there is a push to change this trend, but then networks being a vast, brownfield elephant, it is not easy to transform. So if you look at the manual changes, since they are distributed and siloed, it sort of takes usually a large number, close to an army of people to support those, from an operations perspective. And the skills that are needed are also unique, are also specific, and most of tribal knowledge is leveraged to support that. But the business demands agility, and it requires an automated orchestration way. Now, how can we transform from this tribal knowledge with the distributed, siloed infrastructure, from brownfield to new greenfield and cloud and hybrid deployments, to a more automated environment where there is a quicker outcome, right? So that is the big problem that we need to address, right? And if you look at the challenges, what are the challenges in doing that? One of the big things is the lack of collaboration between the teams. Now, the DevOps movement has changed how the IT is consumed, and there is a lot more self-service coming in with ServiceNow and Service Desk and all that. But then, for a collaborated deployment, there is very little integration between the teams, right, to collaborate. And internal process, what was defined and how it is consumed, are not easy to change, and that have their own SLAs. Internal process have their own SLAs with either existing vendors or new vendors and all that. So it is not easy to rather change those and integrate those. The other one is complexity. Because of the network being a black box and for a network being distributed across with especially enterprises with acquisitions and all that, the network is complex and it is not easy to sort of get a hand around the whole problem. And then there is a skill gap. So to automate, you need a different set of skills. So that is also an issue. And then if you need to transform the network, you need to pretty much forklift upgrade. So the hardware upgrades and all that is also a challenge. On the center of it is the advanced tools that are needed, which sort of touches all these, is also another important core aspect of the challenge, right? So the current solutions, if you look at, right, it requires more of a developer skill set. So either you need to know Python, you need to know some level of coding. And the network engineers, especially those seasoned network engineers, they are never coders, right? They are like SMEs in the network. So they have to learn something new, or the coder has to learn networking. So both of that is not an easy solution, right? And the lot of those tools have a task-based automation or some task-based management instead of defining a more policy-based, where an intent-based, or how you want to look at and how that gets implemented. So it's not an easy, intuitive way of deploying. And then it's not that easy and straightforward to deploy, maintain, and also consume these, because as I mentioned earlier, it requires some level of coding or some level of developer experience. So when you look at a tool, or when you look at a solution, right, what are some of the questions that we need to look at? So when we look at the challenges, can the network tools, can they easily integrate into an enterprise network? So when we talk about enterprise network, there could be B2Bs, there could be DMZs, there could be private clouds, public clouds, and there will be CAS players, and there could be software as a service from the cloud, DDoS. So a whole bunch of different deployments would be there. Can it support different deployments, right? And can it scale? Can it scale across continents so that you have a consistent deployment across wherever your network is spread out, right? And how does the team possess the skills? Can they be trained? Can they upskill? Can they be upskilled to support that? And can it support private cloud if there is a private cloud or public cloud strategy? And if you're deploying Fabric in a greenfield, can it understand Fabric while it supports the brownfield deployments? And then are you looking to offer a platform as a service to your internal customers? Are you looking to support a hybrid deployments? all these have to be looked at when you're looking at a solution, when you're looking at an automation solution. And again, you'll have to look at the priorities of which one, because these are all different aspects in an enterprise, in a business, right? Now, when you look ahead for 2019, let's look at how how we need to approach, or how we have seen our customers approach, and one way or what all we need to touch upon when we plan for 2019 as we move ahead. So first thing is, we need to look at the current processes, current challenges, because each enterprise has its own different, unique set of challenges. And what works for one might not exactly work for another. And that knowledge, that understanding should come from the team, right? And then look at the traditional approach, revisit them as to how we can address those, and plan for a systematic approach. So we'll go a little bit deep into each one of those, and we'll break it down further as we move ahead, right? So it might sound a lot abstract when we hear that. So the first thing is, we need to look at what is the outcome, the minimum outcome at the end of 2019. What would be a success story, right? We need to define that. We need to see, is it like 50% of the changes automated would be success, or 20% of the changes that we do, if it is automated, would that be success? Or even reducing 10% of the outages, if that is a success. So we define the success story so that we can show the business, right, that we have achieved, that outcome. So there are different ways to look at it, but then whatever works for you. So basically define those, and then look at how we can leverage the existing team to upskill them to achieve that. And then the more importantly, how do we address the cultural differences or cultural hacks? Because that is one of the more than technical, right? The political angle or the cultural angle is a bigger challenge in a lot of automation deployments that we have seen. And time and again, that is the biggest hurdle that we have faced when we deploy to customers. There are different ways to address it, but then, that is one important aspect that needs to be planned, that needs to be looked at. And then we need to take a systematic approach to it. Defining a big bang approach is never easy, but taking a measured steps to show progress. One definitely shows progress. Another one is people subscribe to it when they see the benefit. So you get a pretty good return of investment on how that progresses. So one of the key things that our customers have done is they've changed the outcome, changed to an outcome-based model than an output-based model. An output-based model it just calls out, clear. I mean, it says that I did this, this, and this, right? But what is the outcome for the business? So if we turn that around, once we define the business outcome and reward them based on that, that changes the whole ballgame. So a couple of our champions in our customer environments, they have been promoted based on the business outcome they have been able to show, and they have been taking a larger role in automation, and they were able to achieve a lot more with the change in the rewarding model as they reported up the chain, right? And how we need to do that, and how we define that, and how we measure that is different for different org. I'm not going to touch upon that, but I guess that's a longer conversation with the team, right? And the key aspect is, how do we measure network agility? Maybe it could be based on the tickets, based on the closure time, based on SLA time and all that. And then, or it could be based on application availability or number of downtimes reduced and all that, or reduction of operating expenses. I think the reduction of operating expense is a dicey topic. More than reduction of operating expenses, it should be upgrading or upskilling. So what what we have seen in our customer environments is our customers with the same number of resources, they have been able to double or triple their workload. So the workloads are constantly increasing. The work aspects of the number of applications are constantly exponentially increasing. And they were able to manage that with the same set of resources. And that shows an operational effectiveness, right? And the team is upskilling themselves to do high-end tasks than to do mundane tasks. That works a win-win for the business, win-win for the team, and win-win for us as well. So pretty much everybody wins in that equation, right? And then if you look at, how, basically have a defined graph of manual tasks and automated tasks, and how you can show the outcome is something that as a champion, you need to look at, and as a business, you should be able to define that as well. So the first aspect is focus on upskilling the existing team so that they are empowered. They don't feel like, oh, if automation comes in, I'm going to be out of job. So that's the cultural aspect, right? So if we start with upskilling them, and upskilling doesn't mean, you put them into coding session where they don't know head or tail of it, right? Upskilling in a way where they can easily adapt to the new tools. So the moment you put them in a complete, coding, they're like a fish out of the pond, right? They don't know where to go, what to do, and all that. So having that awareness in automation, maybe like a little bit of a non-training and then non-technical training, more into the UI aspects of it and the ease of use aspects of it, and give them an overview on the APIs and how automation is deployed, not deeply technical into the APIs and how they should consume it and all that. But then the trends about how public clouds do it and how networking, the new trends, the fabrics and all that are changing the way we do things and all that. And then how understanding of the DevOps. So everybody talks about DevOps. How many actually know or even understand the tools used by DevOps? How are they deploying it? A case study, right, would basically give an understanding of how their consumers or their users are going to consume, right? And then the biggest challenge I mentioned, right, the cultural siloed organization. So one of the biggest aspects is to have a transparent conversation, because most of the time when we talk about automation and when we talk about cost saving and all that, right? Like one of the large service providers announced in the news that they need to have multi-billion-dollar cost saving. Immediately, everybody goes into a panic mode, right? But then when we have an open, transparent conversation on how we are going to achieve that, that actually drives the team to achieve operational efficiency. And we've seen that happen with that team as well, right? And basically having more like a hackathons within the network team to basically promote the automation and promote how and what they can do using different tools that they can play with, right? And then look at adapting those and encouraging them to share their experience about automation tasks across industries, across their networks. And that actually breaks the silos and brings a lot more coordination, cooperation, and collaboration between the teams. Right? And this is a very important approach. So when we look at automating, right, in 2019, when we look at that, if you're starting right now, or if you're already in the middle of automation journey, right, it sort of applies to pretty much every org, irrespective of which maturity level you are in. And the first thing is we should be able to identify which area, which infrastructure you are looking to automate, right? And basically get an inventory of all the common services. This you could get it either from a change management system or if you have a more streamlined service desk, you could get that from there. And what our customers have done is basically they take a pre and post, like a before and after type of a snapshot. So you take the snapshot for 2018, and then at the end of 2019, you basically take a look at that and present that, right? So having the snapshot, and in that, which ones are taking a lot of time, which ones have the longest lead time, and which ones have a lot of requests, and the ones that can be easily automated. Basically, identifying those is important. And then identifying the automation tool, right? A more simple, intuitive, easy to use automation tool where users can consume and self-serve themselves. That's another important aspect of it. And then the mapping the existing business process, and then for the service request, how it would look as we move to automation, right? And then define a workflow, define as to how automation when automated task would look like. So that is something that we need to look at, and then enable that to user groups, and then ways where you educate them in a more intuitive way, and then go iterate through that for additional tasks and all that. So we'll look at the solution approach as to how we suggest or how we have been successful with our solution. One of the aspects or important aspects that we provide compared to a lot of the competition is that we have a very visually intuitive way of managing. So from an administration perspective, from a user perspective, it is intuitive, it is visual, it's a UI-based approach. The user experience is one of the key aspects we spend a lot of time on. And self-service is a large part of our aspect or focus, and that is one of the main benefits of automation, where the end customer who doesn't know anything about network can consume it, but at the same time, as a network engineers and architects, you have a tab on what they are doing, and they're not breaking the whole system, right? And then the full life cycle management of it. When I say full life cycle, it is soup to nuts. Basically, change management, problem management, incident management, all of that is handled in an automated way, so that it's sort of a packaged solution. And then it is enterprise ready, so that it is able to support however large or however complex your environment is. Right? So I'm going to touch upon AppViewX platform. AppViewX platform, one of the key aspects is it's built in a low-code way, and there is a vast amount of libraries that we publish. You can just drag, drop, and use them. And it is the key aspect. It's intuitive, context-aware, and visual, and it doesn't require a lot of training on coding to understand and use it. So the key word here is low code. So it's close to no code or low code is where it is. So that sort of removes the complexity of coding from the network team, so that they can use it in a more intuitive way, right? And our platform has a closed loop capability where it can basically define actions and triggers, and it can define remediation plans as well. So this gives you a visual, intuitive way as to how it looks. So there are automation tasks and workflow libraries. We constantly update them, publish them. You can combine multiple tasks and nest them together, create a nested orchestrated flow. And you can have an infrastructure view, and that sort of gives a very simple vendor abstractor. So for an end user, they don't have to know what network service you're using. Right? You might be using A today and then B tomorrow, right? From a load balancer perspective, firewall perspective, network perspective. So they don't have to know any of those. Right? They give an abstracted application perspective view, which they are able to easily consume. Right? And that is very important and useful for the application teams. And they are able to self-serve. So you basically define templates, define cookie cutter definitions where you get the intent from the user, and then AppViewX takes it and orchestrates through the flow, and it basically has a fine-grained access control where people don't step on each other, and it has pretty pretty good guardrails to rather focus you into the area. And then also you can it has like a DVR mode where you can go replay as to what has happened from a troubleshooting perspective as well. Right? And then when we say full lifecycle management, at any given time you can see what changed in the environment. So you can go look at the status, and statistics information across each of those network services, each of those objects in a more application-centric way. You can manage it in an application-centric way as well. So that sort of gives the end users capability to understand and self-serve themselves from the day-to-day aspects. It also gives network architects a way to go define those and consume those, or rather to troubleshoot those, especially when there are challenges. And the platform is enterprise ready, supports a whole suite of applications, can be deployed in different modes in different ways across the globe. We have customers using us spread across geographies, pretty much on every continent, having a single central console view of and controlling them. And it has all the security aspects, to support a more compliant, restricted, more regulated environment, and it is able to scale horizontally from a single node, single lab deployment to a multi-data center large enterprise. And it is modular, so that when you deploy, so once you deploy such an integrated tool, upgrading becomes a challenge, right? And it is modular enough so that it has a plug-in based upgrade where you can easily update the system without doing a full forklift upgrade of the whole software. So let me talk about some of the success stories of the customers. It's interesting to see what they've done. So one of the challenges that a leading brokerage firm had was their services were standard offerings or segregated offerings, but everything had a serial processing. So if somebody is consuming, right, they would go raise tickets, and it was all predefined, but still they would have to go through different systems, and then each one had its own SLA. And when they all come together, right, only when everything is complete, you are able to test and validate it. So that was like a major challenge. So what we did is we sort of parallelized the whole process, where depending on what all could be done, so it's more like a project management plan. It orchestrates it based on what could happen before and after. And once the longest chain is complete, it is all validated and it's all built automatically. And that actually reduced the whole cycle time, and and folks were able to consume it from a single pane of glass, and they were able to provide an integrated as a service platform to their internal customers. This is an interesting success story that they had, and they were able to show the number of requests that they are doing manually before and after this pretty graph. And this is another energy company, and the energy companies they're pretty what do you call it, conservative and pretty what do you call it, old ways of doing things, right? So they have deployed a DevOps model, so it's just completely new for them, and we were able to help them to adapt to this, and this was if you know how they operate, it's a huge transformational change as to from where they were to where they are as well. So we basically mapped their current process, and we took basically individual steps from their current process. We automated each step, and there were some manual steps and then automated steps and all that. And then finally, we were able to give a fully integrated automated process, which maps exactly like how they do manually. It was a huge win. And once we did this for one flow, they were able to iterate through and then increase adoption, and they were able to see a lot of value out of it. And this is another customer where they were actually providing, I mean, like AppViewX was the core, and they were actually providing as a service capability. And they had the legacy environment, they had the as a service environment as well. And we integrated with a whole bunch of vendor systems to provide services to other orchestration systems internally. So there were DevOps which were using Jenkins and other tools. There were containerized environments, and they had VMware-based private cloud, and they had Puppet-based automation and all that. So they were consuming our APIs, and we were actually consuming southbound APIs of vendors to provide a more holistic approach of management for them. I'll stop with that. I hope I was able to, cover and give enough time for you to catch up. So if you have any questions, please update in the Q&A panel, and I can address those right now. So let's see if any questions here. All right, while we are waiting for questions, one more housekeeping task. So, if you have questions, you can put it in the Q&A button. You also have, you can try out AppViewX at appvx.com/tryappvux, and you can sign up for a free trial, and you can also chat with us in that if you want to understand further before you want to try AppViewX. So I think there is a question on the chat. Okay, so how is this different from Ansible, right? So if you look at the visual and intuitiveness that I spoke about, right? We actually consume Ansible as a southbound. So one of our customers that was talking about the large cost-saving customer and all that, what they have done is they use Ansible to connect to the network devices, and AppViewX has native capability to call Ansible to execute tasks. So we do the orchestration, and Ansible does the automation of the tasks. And with that, we were able to leverage their existing use cases, existing integrations that they have done. And we were able to automate and orchestrate with the change management system, with the load balancer, with the DNS, and a whole bunch of stuff. So one of the use cases that our customers have deployed is, when you roll out an application, like a DevOps tools or an application, or when you build a new environment, you need DNS entry, firewall rules, global load balancer, local load balancer, web application firewall, certificates, right? Whole bunch of aspects needs to be set up, proxy configuration, and all that. Now, what AppViewX does is it integrates natively with all these systems, and it can it can basically go reserve an IP address and input blocks, QRP, and it can create a DNS record for the service. It can go create a global load balancer for multi-site load balancing. It can create a local load balancer config, and it can actually reserve IP address for the VIPs. It can reserve IP address for the servers. It can go spin up the servers, and it can go trigger a deployment from Jenkins for the code, and or the other way around as well. right? And you can go create the firewall rules needed to allow access between the services. It can go talk to ACI and segment the traffic in the fabric. So pretty much a whole suite of capabilities where it can do. Right? So and we use different systems. We can use different systems for executing those. Right? Okay. Let's see if there are any other questions in the chat window. Okay, so what do you mean by low code or no code? Okay, so we are achieving, or we are striving to be no code, and what we are right now is low code. When you say low code, you don't have to know coding to define and use our product. So it's pretty much a drag and drop and configuration than coding. So if you take Ansible or Puppet or any other tool, for example, right, you will require some level of coding. You'll have to have Python knowledge. You'll have to know YAML, or you'll have to know how to call them from a command line and all that. So the way we offer the solution is we provide an out-of-the-box library, and you just drag those, drag and drop those, and then map the input outputs, and with that you're able to use it. So you can define your own form, the input form. So there are two types of tasks when you drag and drop. There is a human interface task and there is an automation task. Human interface task is anything that you interact with a human. So it could be a form, it could be that you fill, it could be an approval button, it could be a graph, it could be a table with the information that you present to a human. The automation task is you talk to an Infoblas, VIP, routers, and switch, and ACI, or whatever it is. So there are two classifications. So we pretty much give you options where the trigger, the input trigger, could come from an event or a syslog or anything, and the action is either a human interface task where you show a graph to the user, or it could be an algorithm which does a certain action. So once you define how the flow needs to be, you just drag and drop and weave it through and set it up, and you can quickly execute it and see what it does as well, and then you can publish it to end users to consume. And because it is, you don't need to understand the code, that's why it's called no code. Okay. All right, that's all I have. I don't think there are any questions yet. Thank you for your time, and looking forward to talking with you further. All right, thanks. Bye.
Great. Thank you, everyone. We appreciate you being here. As mentioned earlier, if you'd like to have a hands-on experience with our product, please register for a free trial at the given link. And for more information on our other solutions, please visit us at www.appviews.com or email us at info@appviews.com. Thanks again for joining us today, and we'll see you next time.
All right, thanks. Bye, everyone.